Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everybody for coming tonight. It's a nice day outside. We'll do a roll call.
Mr. Bender?
Here.
Mrs. Hoover? Here. Dr. Krug?
Here.
Mrs. Krug? Here. Mrs. Lieb? Here. Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Mr. Basil?
Here.
Mr. Westrick?
Here.
Ms. Zinchak?
Here.
Okay, Mr. Turley on? Is he?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we'll do him first.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir. You can go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Board, thanks for having me present this evening. I just wanted to go over the results of the 23-24 fiscal year audit. I have provided Roland copies of the actual FIC audit report itself, but more importantly, for the purposes of this evening's presentation, there's a document dated for this evening that I'd ask you to follow along with, where I give a synopsis of the highlights of the audit report. You know you'll have the right one in front of you. If you see about halfway down the first page, it says General Fund Balance Analysis. That's the one I'll be concentrating on. Before I get to that, just a couple of quick comments about the FIC audit report itself. What we've issued this year in terms of an independent auditor's opinion is what is known as an unmodified opinion, which in the old days we used to call that a clean opinion. Basically, that means that the information contained in the body of the audit report is presented in conformity with the rules and regulations of our profession, and there are no departures. So that's a good thing. That's a type of audit opinion you want to have when you're submitting this to any third-party requesting agency. Not only do we do a financial audit for the district on an annual basis, but we're also required to do a compliance audit because of the amount of federal funding that the district receives. And in the back of the audit report, toward the back, are the results of our compliance findings. We get a chance to go over that. We again this year audited the ESERS program, and I think we noted one finding this year, which was a decrease from the prior fiscal year. So again, that's good. And we have a corrective action plan shown in there from the district. So that's what PDE will see when the audit report is submitted to them. Now, jumping back to this synopsis dated for this evening, as I do each year with the board, go over the highlights and provide some perspective on prior year numbers. So on the first page, and for the bulk of this presentation, I'll be talking about your main operating fund, which is the general fund. We have a 5-year history of the general fund balance. And as you can see, we ended the year 23-24 with $3,295,000, a decrease of about $1.7 million, about 34%. And you can see over the last 2 fiscal years, the decrease in fund balance. But I note for the board, for the sake of the board, in the 22-23 year with those asterisks you see, the main reason for the decrease was the transfer to the Capital Reserve Fund. So the district prudently moved money from the general fund, from one pot of money, so to speak, to the Capital Reserve Fund for obviously capital improvement. So it wasn't as if you had additional third-party vendor expenses that you incurred. You actually moved money within the district to one earmark for capital purposes. So again, that's a good thing. The 1.721 for this year, again, that goes along the same principle. It's as a result of mainly the result of the transfer to the Capital Reserve Fund. In other words, keeping the money in-house. So that's important for the board to know.
Can I just interject real quick, Mark?
I'm sorry?
This is Roland. I just want to interject real quick. If you want to, on that sheet of paper, if you would take to the right, if you'd like, for the 22-23, the amount would be $566,748, and for 23-24 would be $659,742 if you eliminate those transfers. So those numbers then would coincide with years where we did not transfer funds from the federal or from the general fund into the capital projects. That's all. I
Yeah,
just wanted to give them a number that they could look at.
Yeah, no, that's good perspective, Roland. And that would show a history of 5 years that are very similar, very constant in terms of where the district ended up. So thank you for that. On the top of page 2, we take a look at an important component of the fund balance that we talked about on page 1, and this is the unassigned, monies that are not earmarked for any particular purpose. And the reason this is an important component of fund balance is because PDE looks at this on an annual basis and compares these numbers to your current year budget. And when you look at my paragraph under the 5-year history table, you'll see that as of 2024, your unassigned fund balance was approximately 6.4% of your approved budget for the current year that you're in. So what Section 688 of the school code basically says is that for a school district to raise taxes, if you had to, above and beyond the increase, the annual index increase that PDE gives all school districts, you would have to pass a budget whereby this unassigned amount is at or below, in Northern Cambridge's case, 8% of your current year budget. So you are in fact below that 8% and in compliance with Section 688 if you had to raise millage above and beyond the index. You're at 6.4 as of 6/30/24, and the requirement is stay at or below 8%. Now, in our industry, the GFOA, there's an organization, Government Finance Officers Association. Assuming you didn't have any PDE mandate or Section 688 mandate to follow with that 8%, they like to see a target goal of a fund balance, unassigned fund balance, roughly 2 months average of expenditures. So in that second paragraph of the board, I do the math. 2 months worth of expenditures of about $380,000. And that is roughly what your current overall general fund balance is. So your general fund balance is in line with the GFOA target goal for fund balance. You could, if you wanted to, have that level of unassigned fund balance. But unfortunately, if you did that, you'd be over that PDE mandate of 8%, and you wouldn't want to do that. GFOA's recommended target goal does not take into consideration any mandates. So I look at their recommendation more as total general fund balance. So you're in line with their target goal for fund balance as well. When you turn to the top of page 3, there's a breakdown. I talked about on page 1 the overall general fund balance. Page 2, we talked about the unassigned component of the overall general fund balance. And page 3 gives you a history of the remaining portion of the general fund balance, monies that are assigned for a particular purpose. And you can see a 5-year history of that. And as of the end of 23-24, we have $1,900,000 in assigned for the 4 categories that you can see in the table above: OPEB, PSERS rate increases, debt service, and technology rate. And that's been constant for the last 3 fiscal years, and there has been money in the assigned category for those 4 categories for at least the past 5 fiscal years. Just a small note underneath that table, in addition to the general fund that we've been talking about as of the end of June of 24, the end of the audit, you had $2.2 million still set aside in the capital reserve fund, and you had another $18,461,000 in your capital project fund from the proceeds from the newly issued bonds of 22 and 23. That's where you ended up the year. Those were the fund balance in both of those pots of money, as I like to call it. Now, jumping back to the general fund, how did we do revenues and expenditures? There's a 5-year history of revenues at the bottom of page 3, and you can see over the last 2 years the increases, $1,039,000 in the prior fiscal year and $804,000 in the current year. When you turn to the top of page 4, I asterisk just as a reminder for the prior year what caused that increase, and then the 2 asterisks were what caused the increase in the current year, which is what we're talking about. And as noted, the 2 main increases in the 23 are real estate taxes, about $167,000 as a result of the millage increase that the board approved, and then an increase in overall state subsidies and grants of about $520,000. Those were the two main areas that caused the increase in revenues for the current fiscal year that I audited. The second table on page 4 takes a look at general fund expenditures. Again, you can see for the 23-24 year an increase of about $1,344,000, and I give you asterisks to explain the increase for the last 2 fiscal years underneath that table. Staying with the 23-24, that second asterisk, the main reason for the increase in expenditures this year, an increase in the amount transferred to the Capital Reserve Fund over last year. You sent over another $632,000, again, which is a good thing, as I like to say. And an increase in debt service costs because of the new bond issues of about $500,000. Those two items combined were mainly the reason for the increase in expenditures for the 23-24 fiscal year. The next area I like to look at is how did the board and management do budget versus actual. At the very bottom of the revenues, general fund budgeted revenues exceeded actual by almost $2.2 million. And I show you by category, local revenues, which are mainly your taxes, real estate and wage taxes and things of that nature, state sources, those are all your grants and subsidies, and then federal sources as well. You can see how much they were under budget. And the under budget for federal was mainly with the ESSERS fund. That ESSERS fund, you spend it in different years. It was over basically a 3-year period. So it's really tough to budget that each year on what you're going to expend. And that's why that occurred for the federal source revenues for the most part. On the top of page 5, how did we do with regard to expenditures? General fund budgeted expenditures exceeded actual by about $251,000. And that's close. That's prudent management of your budget, the general fund. You're on the good side. Your actual expenditures are under your budget, so that's where you want to be. And I just call out the 3 functional areas that were either under or over budget. Plant and services over budget by $263,000, capital outlay under budget by $2.4 million, and operating transfer over budget by $1,461,000. So those were the 3 main areas that were either over or under budget for the 23-24 fiscal year. The last bullet point is important. When you originally did your budget to PDE, you projected to have excess revenues over expenditures of about $222,000. Excess revenues over expenditures. However, the actual results showed expenditures of $1,721,000 over your budget projection. And that, again, was mainly due to the Capital Reserve Fund transfer, not payments outside the district to a third-party vendor, but basically payments to yourself prudently into your Capital Reserve Fund. At the bottom of page 5, in addition to what we've been talking about so far, the general fund and how much monies were left in your capital reserve and your other project, all school districts are required to, in your audit report, have what I call a corporate balance sheet. Now, the general fund, when you're looking at the general fund and your food service fund, you're always looking at those on a 1-year basis, budget versus actual, and that's important. This corporate balance sheet that you're also required requires you to put in your long-term assets, your buildings and your equipment, and also your long-term liabilities. And when you do that, if you look at the first line, the net position, which is basically the fund balance of the district, shows a $10 million deficit, basically. So, Mark, you told us when we began the presentation that we were $3 million to the good. Now you're telling us under this corporate look, we have a $10 million deficit. Well, those of you that have been on the board for a while, you'll recognize what I mention to the board each year is the main reason for that corporate balance sheet to be in a deficit position is because you, like all school districts, have to show as one of your liabilities on that corporate balance sheet your proportionate share of the PSERS liability, the pension liability at the state level. And you're also required to show your other post-employment benefit obligations, not only to PSERS, but to your district staff upon retirement. And if you look at page 6, you turn to the top of page 6 briefly, I have itemized, you'll see 1, 2, and 3 on page 6, what those dollar amounts are. Your net pension liability, $21,220,000, and your OPEB liabilities, the two of them combined, that's another 3.9, almost 4 million. So you can see rather quickly when you add those two liabilities onto your balance sheet that it's going to throw you in a negative position. And that throws all of my school districts. But it's a required paper entry that you have to make to, if you remember in the beginning of my presentation, I said you had a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion. You have to show these paper amounts on that corporate balance sheet in order for me to be able to say that, like all school districts do.
Mark,
just turning back briefly to that.
Can I interject, Mark?
Yes, please, Roland.
Well, I just want you to maybe just a little bit go into each one of these liabilities is what happens as if we look at a specific date in time. This is how much money they say we would owe PSERS. However, I want you to assure the board that on a yearly basis, we are paying all of those obligations to PSERS and any of the liabilities that are listed there for post-employment benefits. So those are all included in our financials on an annual basis. These don't just sit there. We meet those obligations as they come due every year.
Yes, that's correct. Your budget, as a matter of fact, as you know, the PSERS rate currently is 34%, and that's a significant portion. So every dollar of wages, 34% of that is for pension and goes to PSERS. So you are, and you're required, obviously, to pay that on an annual basis to PSERS. Now, this, the thing about this net pension liability needs OPEB. There's a lot of actuarial factors that come into play. This 21 million looks down the road and says that your teachers, the ones that are brand new, that are in their 20s, the assumption is they're going to stay with Northern Cambria School District until their retirement age. The older teachers, they're going to stay through retirement. There's a lot of assumptions that may or may not happen, interest rates, things of that nature that come to this number of 21 million. And this number is somewhat volatile. It changes from year to year for all school districts. I did a presentation last week to a larger school district in Northern Cambria, and their net pension liability was 150 million. So as I facetiously say to my board every year, it's not as if you have to write a check tomorrow morning to PSERS for $21 million. It's a calculation that they say in time, over time, this is what are going to accumulate to assuming all of your staff stays at the district through retirement age. And as Roland said, you're funding this annually to pay for this liability. So just keep those facts in mind. It's an important point. Thank you, Roland. Just lastly, to jump back to the table on page 5, there's a smaller fund to the district, but nevertheless important, food service operations. The second line down there, if you look at change in net position, that's a fancy way of saying did we have a profit or loss in the cafeteria fund. And you can see this year about 7,000 compared to last year's number. And the 3 lines under that basically tell the story. If there were increases or decreases in revenues that led to that change in profit, so to speak, annually. So you can read those and see basically expenses were up above and beyond the increases in revenues, which you're still in a profit position, but a little bit less than last year. So I just wanted to present that to the board. And then my last 2 pages are just comments that I make to the board annually. Segregation duties, I bring that to attention to all my students. And then on the last page, federal uniform guidance reporting requirements. This is just a reminder I'm sending to all my schools this year. Over the last 3 years, ESERS has been on all school districts doing PDE monitoring, looking at every aspect, at different things than what we do, but they monitor a lot of aspects of how you spend your federal money. But the reason I put this punch list in your management letter this year is to tell you that the uniform guidance is the Bible guidance for all federal programs, not just ESERS spending. So these guidelines not only apply to ESERS, but they apply to Title I, Title II, Title IV, IDEA, any federal monies that come in the door. So these are a good reminder to have at hand whenever you're spending those monies to make sure you're in compliance with not just this listing, but all information that's in that uniform guidance. So I think that's about everything that I wanted to go over with the board, the highlights, the results of the independent auditor's opinion, the compliance testing, and some other comments for the board. But if anybody has any questions, I know you haven't had time to go through the thick audit report as thoroughly as you'd like, but if you have any comments on the presentation we'll talk about tonight, please feel free to ask.
Go ahead.
Yes.
And Mark, this question might actually be for Roland. For the 23 year, when our food services operating expenses to this year, such an increase, is it because of the purchase of equipment? It's on page 5 in the chart. It's such a large increase. Mark, this question might actually be for Roland.
I can interject.
Okay.
It looked to me when I looked at the line, I always look at the line items before I write those comments, maybe anticipating your question, which is a good question. It was on the purchases line item for food and supplies, things of that nature is where I saw the largest increase in expenditures. Now, there were other areas that were increased, but that particular line item stood out to me.
Okay.
So it was basically the food cost. When you buy the equipment that was purchased, you're correct in that money was expended for equipment. But that money, just so you know, that dollar amount, which was expended and you used cash, that actually became a capital item on your balance sheet and does not show as an expense.
Okay.
So that would not be a reason why the expenses increased. That may be a reason why you use cash because of that equipment. But the expense line item was more related to product purchases than anything else.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Charlie, would you say that this audit is a reflection of the performance of our business manager? And if that's the case, how would you characterize that? Because none of us besides Mike Basil is an accountant, so a lot of us are kind of just wondering.
Well, I think with regard to two areas. First of all, you always want to have, well, maybe 3 areas, and I won't run on with this, but when you have a clean opinion, that's a good thing. So that's reflective of the business office and getting the records together and working with Roland to be able to put this in that position. The second is a combination of the board and the business office. And if you remember my comments with regard to budget versus actual expenditures, on your level of budget to be within $250,000, while all of us look at that maybe as a high number personally, if we were talking about our personal finances, for the school district, that's, I don't see that too often to be that close. So to me, that's a cooperative effort with the board and with regard to spending. And then the last comment is the ESERS and the compliance audit. Last year there were more findings. There were a number of findings, and ESERS had a number of findings for a lot of school districts. And I think that those number of findings were cut down in the 23-24 year from I think 5 or 6 in the prior year down to 1. So that's reflective of the business office as well. So just to pinpoint certain areas to answer your question, I think that's the best way for me to answer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Roland.
Anybody else?
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Norma, go ahead.
Yes, how long are we still under the penalty of that 40% of the audit instead of 20?
You'll be in that as long as you have those findings. It's a 2-year window. So if in the 24-25, so for 24-25
Okay,
and
thank you.
25-26,
Thanks, Roland.
you'll be considered high risk simply because of the
Yes,
findings.
How long are we still
If
under
in
the penalty of that 40% of the
24-25
audit instead of 20?
next year, that those findings go away, which I anticipate they will, and return back to normal without ESERS funding, 24-25, then the 26-27 year, you'll go back to low risk and only have to do 20% testing. And that's assuming everything is okay, which I anticipate it will be for all of my school districts. So we're looking at the 26-27 year for being in terms of testing the 20.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Good, Roland, good?
I'm good, thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Did you have anything else?
I just have a couple quick comments, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just wanna make a couple public notes here. One thing I really wanna do is make sure in public there, we congratulate Coach Kokenauer and the boys varsity basketball team. I know you kinda have gotten used to the fact that they always do pretty well here, and that's great. Trust me, it's coming from a school where that wasn't the case. How nice it is when you walk in and you see you've got a winning team, and our boys varsity basketball team really is our winners. And I went down to see them playing Jeanette. Jeanette was a really tough team, but our boys did a really good job. So I just think I want to congratulate them and hope we can all just get a chance to see basketball players, give them a fist pump or something, because they did a really good job. It's a really good bunch of young men, and Coach Kokenauer did a great job. Also want to wish good luck to all the spring sports that started today. That all started, most of them are playing West Shamokin, so we're into the spring sports now, and good luck to all of them. I want to also mention here quickly that we had a change of personnel in the construction project. Nick Kinja, who has been our project manager, I guess from the start, I don't know, but Nick is gone. He went to pursue another opportunity with a different company, so he is now no longer with Site Logic. We will be fine though. We're getting a gentleman named Dave Volk who will take over as the overall project manager. I know Dave well. I've worked with him on projects previously. He's very experienced, and we'll be I'm sure, very happy with him. And good luck to Nick on his new ventures here. Just also mention too, right now I've been meeting with the principals, and we're going to, and some of the teacher teams, we're going to be doing that more as we get into the spring, starting to look at, I think, an important conversation we'll need to have with the board here before the end of the school year is really about harmonizing schedules. Now, traditionally, the school district has run on a elementary, middle, and high school kind of a schedule, which worked well when you were in disparate locations, but now being in the single location and with the change in the administrative structure to where we're now really more, in my opinion, not formally, but as a practical matter, we really are a K-6, 7 to 12 district. It's probably in our best interest to look at harmonizing our bell schedules and day schedules so that it works better within that model. That's going to be an important thing we'll be working on here in the next few months. And again, just thank everybody. I've had a chance to meet some of the teacher teams. I was over at the high school and got to meet with their technology educators, and just today I met with the kindergarten teachers. So you guys really have an amazing group of educators here, and you should be very proud of them, very happy that you have them. So that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. We'll go into the guests and patrons. Remember, 5 minutes, state your name and where you're from. And first one is Reverend Marty Cartner.
Nice to see you all again. Reverend Marty Cartmel. I'm on the local public library board, and I appreciate your support. And we want to support the school. The library wants to support the school, and so we have the extra hours for kids to come. We've got free computers and free internet for kids who do not have that at home. We've got Saturday hours for the kids, and we do programs for the children, which are very popular. Preschool programs, getting books in the hands of children before they even come into school. So thank you for your support over the years, and we're asking that you support us once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Diane Waxmonski.
I'm Diane Waxmonski, 622 Municipal Road, Northern Cambria, retired teacher, and I hope you get both of the motions in the agenda passed with the foresight of giving money to the library in the 25-26 school year. As I was part of the original first ever reading teams in Northern Cambria, and I don't remember when it started with the IU8. You were on my team, yeah. At one point, our bus going to the reading competition had more students on board than the bus going to the football games. And it was amazing. Everyone wanted to read. I was running between middle school and high school, and yeah. Jen said Jock was on the team. And, it was wonderful. And in those days, it was just being born. And I was on that for about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years, I don't know. So having that in the motion would be wonderful for the library to count on, because I know how much we counted on it in the beginning, and now I know some of it is budgeted in the school. The other thing I would like to ask for, and maybe the president of the board would like to do it, or he would allow a member of the board to do it. But when I stand up here now for the last 2 years, I give my name, my address, Susquehanna Township, former teacher of Northern Cambria for 35 years. I do not recognize or know the new board member. Maybe he could do that for the rest of us who don't know him, or you could do it for him.
Sure.
Whatever, because, at least name, address, occupation, where that person came from would be really nice for all of the members of the audience as well as.
Sure.
Thank you.
Done? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. The new board member is Mr. Tom Bender. He was the IT personnel at St. Francis University. I believe he's retired now, and willing to serve on the board until November. So he's from Northern Cambria. Where's the line at there?
I'm up in Nicktown.
Nicktown. Okay, you'd be Nicktown. But thank you for very much doing this for us. And that's Bob Westrick, Jen Zenshock, Danielle Hoover, Mike Basil, Tom Rocca, Norman Krug, Carol Lieb, and myself, Kevin Krug. Okay? Used to be retired board member, but come back in. Okay. Thank you guys very much. Okay? So we're gonna go to business manager. You have anything, Roland?
Yeah, just, I handed out to you, the general fund budget status is a separate form I gave you. The one that's in the system has, the wrong current budget numbers, so those are the current budget numbers and the variances, so that's for you guys to have and look at. I also submitted to you previously the Pliget fund balances, all the activity in the Pliget, and I will go over the actual treasurer's report for the month of February at this point. The beginning cash balance was $403,178. We had various local sources of revenue of $152,984. The highest portion of that was the earned income taxes, was the lion's share of that money. Secondly, we have the state and federal sources. That amount was $1,677,588, and the majority of that came from our basic ed funding subsidy that came through, as well as Social Security reimbursement from the state and some title monies. Thirdly, we have the miscellaneous revenues and deposits. It's a kind of a misnomer to call a transfer a revenue. It's just shifting money from one account to another, but that is included in your miscellaneous revenue column of $1,513,962. Of that, $1,500,000 was just money transferred from our Pliget accounts into our general fund. So our grand total February receipts were $3,344,535. Our expenditures, we had payroll of $427,000, disbursements from the general fund of $1,556,127. We transferred $15,000 to the cafeteria account, as well as transferred $1,200,000 out of our general fund into the Pliget fund. So the total disbursements and transfers out were $3,198,430. Our ending cash balance at February 28th in general fund is $549,283. And you can see the other account balances there at the bottom for February, the various activity accounts, athletic account, and we did close out. There was a capital reserve money market account that we had originally set up thinking that we were gonna use that to transfer money between that and our capital reserve checking. However, that didn't transpire. It was better for us to have those transfers go from Pliget directly into FNB. So I closed that account out and it's no longer being used. That's it for the finances.
Thank you. Any guys have any questions on that? Okay. Minute approval be resolved, minutes of February 4th, 2025 committee of the whole and the February 18th, 2025 regular meetings are approved as presented. I'll make the motion. Second through Mr. Mike Basil. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, treasurer and financial report, be resolved, the treasurer and financial reports for February 2025 be approved as presented and received and filed. That's what Roland just went over, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
So Mr. Tom Rocco, any questions or comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, you can see the enrollment report. We'll move into the action agenda. Building subcommittee. Be it resolved, the Board of Education agrees to create a high school building committee to plan for the eventual usage, sale, or demolition of the property. As per the board policy, the president will select and appoint the members of the committee. And I will make that motion.
Second.
Zero, Mr. Chen Zenshaw. This was requested by, I believe, Mr. Basil requested this one, so. Anybody have questions or comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, I'll get back to you on the, I imagine Carol. After-school dinner program. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves and adopts the after-school dinner program according to the nutrition group guidelines for the remainder of this year and through the next school year of 2025 and 26. I'll make the motion for that. And we'll give it to Mr. Tom Bender for that one. Any questions or comments? We probably should explain this one since we had a little talk with the nutrition group. I'll be upfront with you, I was not in favor of the dinner program, but the way Michelle Ercolini presented to us is that they base it on 35 people using it a day, but what they're gonna try to do is use it for a lot for the athletic teams for their away games if they can, okay? So basically, it is a money maker at this time. She guaranteed us that we could change it at any time. If it becomes a cash loss, we could end it at any time, all right? So that's what she said, so it's not like we're tied into it forever. And right now, she explained it as if we would not do the program, we would lose like 29,000, based on her figures, her proposed figures, okay, because this hasn't been done before. We'd lose around 29,000, somewhere in there, but
That was the number.
that would work well. So, just so you have that kind of information from the meeting we had today, okay? So, my biggest concern was that since we're feeding kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the school, that it will destroy the family at home and the dinner at home, and I don't wanna see that either, but, you know, you don't want kids to go hungry if they're going to a away game or something like that either, so. We could try it, get rid of it if it doesn't work, okay? Go ahead, Danielle.
As a booster, how do we, as boosters, ask for those meals? Would we like call Kristen and say we have 10 kids going somewhere?
Well, she says it happens right after school, okay? It happens directly as soon as school, it can't happen within a school day, it happens after school.
Okay.
So you probably have to have it ready for them, but not be able to pick anything up until after that. Am I
Yeah,
wrong
I
with
think
that?
there would probably have to be, in order to make it work right for the games that are going away.
Yeah.
Athletic director or somebody will have to make those contacts with Kristen so that she's aware, yeah. Now, otherwise, if it's just open for any kid that wants to, and, you know, like any other program, until it gets up and running, the cafeteria is really not gonna know what kind of use it's going to be, but for sure, whenever there's an away game, there should be some kind of a contact made to the cafeteria to let them know, then those meals can be prepared and given to those kids right at the end of the day, if, you know, if there's an away game.
And those are for kids who attend school.
Only our.
It's not for the parents, it's not for
Oh,
anybody
no,
who visits. They have to have them.
No.
They have to attend school that
Yeah.
day.
Okay, yeah.
Well, they have to attend school to participate in the sport
Right.
too.
So do the students, I'm assuming the information is gonna be shared, but do they actually physically take the lunch home or dinner or whatever at that time, at the end of the day, they're taking on a bus, or do they actually,
That's what, that's.
yeah, they'll take it,
They can't take
Grab
it
and
with
go,
them.
yeah.
Grab and, like you said, grab
let's
and.
grab it, okay.
Okay.
Do we have the staffing for this, and is that an increased cost that takes away from our profit?
She figured it in. They planned for a certain amount of staffing, so believe me, we asked all those questions. But the reimbursement is high enough, so right now, that it will cover those costs by a lot, so.
So if we monitor this.
But it's also based on usage. okay?
Right, and I was gonna say, if we monitor this and it seems to be not as productive, we can make changes because it's contractual.
Well, Michelle and Kristen are gonna monitor it, okay, cause they have to grab it per the student, you know, I mean, if you, the sports teams are gonna be able to say, okay, I'm gonna have 18 kids that I need. They'll probably have them ready, but they can't grab them till after school, okay?
No, I
But the kids
understand
will
that,
have to grab them themselves. You can't just have one person go grab them for all the kids, the kids have to get them,
Okay.
okay?
And like swipe their card,
Yes,
give their number.
yes,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's how the reimbursements
So they
happen.
can, just like for lunches now, where the students don't pay for lunch, they go in and give their
Right.
student account number and they mark it down, because they have to count each
Correct,
lunch that's given,
right.
so it's the same.
I'm just
Okay.
saying that we should let the boosters know these are available, so if they want to take advantage of it,
Mhm.
they fully understand how to do so, so that it can be profitable, rather than, you know, we wanna share the information with them so that they can take advantage of it.
Cause the athletics,
Why the boosters? Why can't
Just
the
the
kids
coaches.
just do it?
They make
Why
it.
don't
well,
they
you have to share it with them, is what you're
Because
Kids
saying.
need made
Just to make
Because the
sure to make them
boosters
aware.
spend hundreds of
The
dollars
boosters
every
coordinate lunches for
semester.
the meals for the students after,
So they
for
don't
sports.
so they don't buy stuff and they already have.
Right,
Right, also so this would be free, so the boosters wouldn't have to pay for the kids to eat.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, they don't know what the food is either, though, you know,
Yeah.
boosters can
Right.
provide some good stuff.
It's
You know what
not
I mean?
Stromboli
It's
for
not gonna
boys
be
like
what
they used to.
It's not gonna be that.
Yeah, but, right. Okay, just, I mean, so if we can educate our parent groups so that they take
Yes.
advantage of it, so that we don't
Yes.
tank it before it ever starts, that would be great.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure, when is it immediate start or
Well,
no?
I think, and I understand the whole booster situation, however, I think we should be asking either, you know, I don't wanna put anything else on, Mr. Pajak, but that should come from one source over to the cafeteria.
Right.
That way, they say, this is how many kids are gonna go. Now, that doesn't guarantee that they're all gonna take it, but he should let them know which teams are going when. And then, I guess through trial and error, the cafeteria people can figure out how much or whatever they need to make. But my fear is that we get, you know, 10 different booster groups calling the cafeteria, that could cause some issues.
It might be better off for the coach to handle that.
Yes.
That's a coordination thing, they'll handle it,
And
or
I'm
they
gonna-
won't.
I'm gonna ask that we reevaluate then, just partway through, just bring numbers to us, and I want
And Michelle
cafeteria to
said she
do that,
would, believe me,
so
we stressed that.
see where we are,
Sure.
because,
But
we
anyway,
need to make sure that
I mean,
it's
if it
not
works,
lost.
great, so that's wonderful, at least then the
Exactly.
kids will eat a little bit.
Just give it every chance to do well, if not.
Okay,
Sounds good.
so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that?
Motion carries.
Alright. Alright, Northern Cambria Public Library now. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the $4,000 payment to the Northern Cambria Public Library for the 24-25 school year, which is this year, as budgeted. Okay, I'll make the motion for that.
I'll second.
I'll give it to Carol Beachy, I'll give it to Carol.
All right.
My only question since I made the motion is, do we always have to do this twice? Like, we proved it already and just,
Well, no, I think the issue was though, at one point, there was a discussion as to, at what point of the year do we pay them?
okay,
So I don't wanna make that choice if the board doesn't care I can make that payment whenever, but before, it was brought up as far as we're holding that closer to the end of the year to see how we stood financially.
So we haven't paid it yet, though?
No.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Okay, good.
Motion carries.
All right, second one, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the request of the Northern Cambria Public Library for a payment of $4,000 to be included in 2025-26 Northern Cambria School District budget to support the programs offered which benefit our students, including Saturday and evening hours, reading competition books, and story hour, and I'll make that motion also. Who's first? I'll give it to Bob. Bob Lester. Okay, questions or comments? My only comment is, if we could, just so they could plan better, we make the payment around the same time every year. It just, not instead of jumping around, that way they know when it's
And I
coming.
think typically it's been sometime in, the last quarter of the school year.
Yeah,
But
everybody doing that?
if they have
It's easier to
dire
plan that way.
needs for it prior to that, and the board wants me to pay it in the beginning of the year, just let me know.
My vote would be just pay it around the same time so they know when it's coming.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cyber School Subcommittee, be it resolved, the Board of Education form a subcommittee to investigate the cyber schools issues related to the Northern Cambria School District. As per board policy, the president will select and appoint members of the committee. I'll make the motion for that. So, Mr. Jen Zenshaw. Questions or comments? Mike asked for this to look into that, so. Any other questions or comments?
I would just comment, a lot of schools are looking at cyber school
Yeah,
right
it's a
now.
big problem.
I've seen it, various schools around the area are doing something similar.
And I think important to notice, we do have one, we do have a cyber function, I think this is hopefully more along the lines of how can we improve it and increase it, but there does exist a cyber school function already.
Okay.
Yeah, we have someone, Melissa?
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
wait.
strange-
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Strategically, we need to
Yeah,
Yeah.
do
okay.
that for sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Mike, since you will spearhead that?
Sure.
Okay. Pick your team, bud.
Probably can't be more
All
than.
right, now you can't have
Yeah,
more
you
than
can't
four.
perform,
Can't
yeah.
have more than four. Okay. Item D, IU8 General Fund Operating Budget. Be it resolved, Board of Education approves the 25-26 Appalachian Intermediate Unit 8 General Fund Operating Budget as presented in Appendix 1. I'll make the motion for that. Second one, Mr. Tom Malka. Questions or comments, guys? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, use of facilities. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the request from the Spangler Fire Company to use the gym and the pool at the elementary middle school and waive the fees to offer the YMCA drowning prevention program, the date that will be determined. This program will be for children from ages 5 to 12. I'll make the motion for that. Second, Mr. Jen Zenshaw. This was on, I gave you that paper at the cow from Mr. Mike Patrisco for that one. Okay, I don't know whether the pool will be ready to use or able to be used, but
That was gonna be my question, just like the release
yeah, I
stats.
don't know that yet. I haven't talked to Mr. Smith in a month, so.
Okay.
We'll ask them about that. Okay. If not, maybe they can bring someone who's pool approved to be able to use it. I don't know.
Tom?
Is this just,
You
one
won't do
date?
it?
It's a
Okay.
one-day thing.
That's what
This
I'm
is a
asking, you
one-day
didn't
thing.
say that, okay.
Okay.
You
One
have
day.
to say no if you're not gonna. Is Mr. Smith getting certified for the pool
I
at this
think
point?
he's actively working towards that, yes. It's
Okay.
there's a little bit more involved. I think you have to go somewhere too. You can't just do it online anymore, so.
I don't think you
Okay.
can either.
No, you have to go
And
somewhere.
doesn't the water have to be tested?
I think Cardin Labs did that. They did the E.
Yeah, it was on the
coli
bills,
test,
it
stuff
was
like that.
tested. Yeah,
But, no, this other stuff, you have to have a certified person.
yeah, because it has to be tested and they have to be taken at certain spots, I believe.
So,
So
For the test.
if we're gonna approve though, should we make sure that the certification is underway so that it actually can happen? So if something happens,
well, it doesn't just have to be him, it could be anybody who's certified for the pool, okay? We're hoping he's working towards that.
oh, but they could
But-
bring someone in?
Sure.
Oh,
As long as you have
perfect.
someone within an hour
I-
of that thing.
I
they
didn't
could
know, I
use the
just wanted to
pool.
make sure that it was actually doable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is our pool functional at this time?
Not yet, I don't think, I think the construction project's in the way a little bit, but it's because we don't have anybody certified, is what he's telling me.
Okay, but so I read in the bills that we had the pool water tested,
Yes,
and I would ask him what the results are, but he's not here.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's okay, but, I just, usually water can sit stagnant, so I didn't know if we had been monitoring it over time.
I believe they are monitoring
think they
the
are.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's things are running.
Because Jeff cannot,
Was he not
He
there?
can't do chemicals, I understand that, but I didn't know if
Jeff
anyone
cannot-
was monitoring
yeah.
status,
So
stagnant
the
water.
water's not green or whatever,
Nothing.
but before we get somebody that comes in, and the closest one that he knew was, from Blairsville or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's right, you won't do it, so he has to help.
Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is just, basically, if it can't be used, it can't be done. This is just fix of this, okay? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
The Meadows Psychiatric Center, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the 3-year letter of agreement 2025, 26, 27, 27, 28 school years with the Meadows Psychiatric Center for educational services in the event a district student is hospitalized in the psychiatric center as per appendix number 2. Motion by Mike Vasil, second by Mr. Daniel Hoover. Any questions or comments?
This is who we currently use, isn't it? It's just a renewal? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, why is this a 3-year agreement? It didn't used to be. Just wondering.
And there was nothing in the letter about changing it, I assumed that, I didn't know, I assumed that was what it always was, that it didn't give any rationale for that length of time.
It shows up every year and it's not typically a 3-year agreement, that's why that just kind of throws a red flag to me, that's all.
I mean, it's
Not
still only
sure.
as you use it though, technically, it just gives us the option to use it, but not technically required, I guess. Does it lock rates in? Is the rates locked in for 3 years?
I think they're stated in appendix 2 though.
Yeah, I'd have to double check.
But it's probably per student though, you know,
Yeah,
so.
Per day, yeah.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed though?
I'll vote yes.
Okay, it's 8. You're opposed one?
No.
Oh.
So yes.
Motion carries.
9-0. All right, in-person evaluation, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the parental request for an in-person gifted evaluation for the student with Mrs. Jamie Irvin, psychologist. The cost of the district is $1,000. Motion by Mrs. Jen Zenshaw, second by Mrs. Daniel Hoover. Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed to that, Karen.
Motion carries.
I'm gonna give the reason, because it's the second one. So, item C, HMH, into reading K6 ELA. Mr. Parrish received an updated quote. They reduced shipping costs as well as increased the discount, resulting in a savings of $5,512.42. In addition, they will accept 50% of the total cost in the 24-25 school year and the other 50% from 25-26 budget. We can discuss the budget and payment plan to get the reading ELA series to the teachers this summer, so they may plan accordingly. Do you have anything to add on that, Mr. Allen? That's the reading thing that's.
yeah, this is, the old one, which was Journeys, I believe, was discontinued, this is just the update to it, so this is really not a change in the curriculum approach or how they do it. It has its own certain characteristics that it was when it was Journeys, that pretty much carries over to this new one. So this is really just making sure that we continue or have continuity with what we have been doing for ELA for I don't know how long we've had Journeys, but it's been, I think, for a pretty good a fair amount of time from what I understand. So this is really just more of an effort to maintain continuity of what we've already been doing, and I think what we've been doing based on the data, admittedly limited data I've seen so far, it's still very, very encouraging, very promising. Our kids are doing very well.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay, into reading K6, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the 3-year proposal from HMH Education Company for the district's K6 reading ELA series, books, digital, and professional development. The cost of the district is $88,302.08. Payments will be made over 2 school years with the amount of $44,151.04 paid in the 24-25 school year and the same amount budgeted for and paid in the 2025-26 school year as per appendix 3. I'll make the motion for that. So Mrs. Norton Krug. Roland, this is where you were able to get the delivery costs down, right? Cause that was exorbitant.
Well, yeah, but the one thing that I didn't realize when I first looked at it is that they do have 3 years' worth of deliveries. So it's not just a one-time delivery. For the length of the term, they have to deliver books for each of the 3 years. But they still worked with us to get down and then took the 50%. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think most of those are consumables, correct? That's why
Yes.
it's not, so it's
And
not
that's
like
the
we're.
problem with, you know, I guess technically the teachers could go along with, doing the program that's in place, but there's no handouts or anything. They'd have to copy everything and generate that whole, which is a real pain. So this is definitely the way to go. Again, I had some concerns with the board prior about that large amount of money going out in 1 year. You know, we're still gonna be over budget in the curriculum line item, but I feel confident that we're okay with the difference to come out of that would have those funds within the general fund, or if we need to take it out of the fund balance to make it work for them to have that available before the school starts.
And I would add to that, I think arguably, K-6 reading is probably the most fundamental task we have. So one place I would not wanna ever try to cut back would be in that one. Others we can talk about, but reading is what was the old saying, and they used to say reading is fundamental. That's going way back.
Yeah. Technically, we are not allowed to copy the workbooks, so that is why they have to be sent
That's correct.
every year. Just to be clear, it's
Yeah,
it's
thank
not
you, that's
okay
right.
to make copies.
You can buy a license to it, but the license ends up costing you as much as if
Right.
you just get the consumables again.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, therapy dog, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the therapy dog policy as per appendix number 4.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mike Basil, second Mr. Daniel Hoover. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Kev, just real quick, I don't necessarily expect everybody to have to support a policy I bring forth to the board, but I would just ask that if you don't support it, maybe we could discuss why you don't, so we can make sure either the policy addresses it, if there's a concern about risk or danger or allergies, whatever the reasoning might be. I will say that, from a therapy dog standpoint, again, we've talked about before the mental health needs of students, emotional support, improved reading, skills. There's a lot of, science that supports the value of therapy dogs being brought, and we've had therapy dogs here before, when we had the past, circumstance that occurred in the school a couple years ago. They brought therapy dogs into the students, and coincidentally this weekend, it was brought to my attention about some therapy dogs that were brought to a local school, and they knew that I'd been talking about it at the school district, and they actually brought the cards. I'm gonna show them just because I thought it was pretty cool. People might laugh, but I think it's actually pretty cool. So dogs recently went to our school, and the students were actually able to they were given cards of the dogs that they liked, and they actually have like information, almost like a playing card. So again, students relate, majority of students, I'm not gonna sit here and make a generalization that every student loves pets, or dogs, or cats, whatever it might be, but I think there's an inherent benefit here. So the only thing I ask at board is if you don't support this, let's discuss it. If there's something in the policy you don't like, you can't just bring your pets in and say that I have to have this dog because it's, attached to it, whatever the word is they use. It has to be a dog by a certified handler. The dog has to be approved. We can, if there's any risk of the dog, or, whatever the pet may be, I shouldn't just generalize the dog. We won't have any horses in here, just to let everybody know. But the point is, if it's a pet that, if you read the policy, there's a lot that addresses concerns I think the board might have. If there's an allergy that a student, or immediate risk or threat, the animal has to be removed immediately, and the pet has to be approved every year. It's not something that we give this approval and then it's forever. Every year the dog has to, or cat, whatever it may be, has to be reapproved, has to be certified, the handler has to have it leashed. So there's a lot of precautions that are put into place. So if you have concerns, I just ask that you bring them up here publicly so we can discuss, and you vote the way you want. I'm not gonna sit here and judge because of that, but if you vote no, and you don't tell me why you vote no, I'm gonna take it personal, because I'm gonna think that you're voting just because you don't like me. So I just would like to know if you don't, if you don't like, if you don't want pets in there because there's no reason, I'm okay with that, but at least explain why. So, that's my gist of what I wanna discuss. Yeah.
Since I wasn't here before, and this policy that you're doing, this is for any individual, and once you pass it or go through the check, they can bring in an animal and take in the class with them, or is that somebody, professional people bringing it?
Certified handler, so right now, the discussion's been around the principal, one principal has, a dog that she's going through the certification process with. She has offered to bring the dog in daily with her and provide it to therapy more or less for students or whatever it might be, so, you can't just, a student would not be allowed to bring their dog or pet in, it has to be approved by the super, regardless whether or not the policy met, it still has to be approved by the super, so it's not something that, they could just bring in. We just would have a policy in place that allows us to, to manage it, and then Ellen would, you'd count on Ellen to, from a day-to-day standpoint, say, I've heard some instances, I don't think it's good that we have it in here, or whatever the reason might be, but to me, I only see benefits from it. Are there risks? Of course there's risks, so we'd have to talk about those, and that's something that would be evaluated. How's our insurance gonna be affected at the school district? Students that fear certain dogs or cats, but there's also the other flip of the coin, that the more you're around and introduced, you might actually get rid of that fear. So, but to answer your question, it's not, no, it has to be through a certification process. They go through, I forget what the agency's called, and.
But I know individuals can get their dog or whatever certified too, so that's why I was just.
Yeah, we go through an agency right now, it's pet.
No, I mean an individual, like if I was in school and I had a pet, I
Do you
wanted.
mean a teacher individual or a student?
No, a student.
A student,
But they can get those certified also, because,
it would have to be approved.
well, no, if they get certified and they come in, that student can bring it to their classroom.
different-
No,
Okay.
because the student's attending class, it's meant for a handler that's going to be able to.
I think there's confusion on what you're talking about, Mr. Bender, would be a service dog, a service animal. And what this policy covers is
That's what-
a
thank you.
therapy dog,
Where
where,
an emotional support dog.
No, that's
No.
what she said, sir, no,
Emotional support
No.
animal.
No.
Let's open
that is
the
not a
gate
certified,
to
No,
5
It's
pets in
already
every
our
room.
policy.
no.
That's what I wanna know.
We already
That's why I
have
was
that.
asking. which
yeah,
one.
no, it's a fair question, that's not
We already have
that is
it.
not that does not follow
Policy,
policy at all, because it
yes.
has to be by a handler, it has to
What
pet all
animals are in
day,
this policy?
can't be a distraction in the classroom.
No, I mean, my
Yeah.
daughter has a therapy dog.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
Yeah.
I just don't know if this opens the gate
Not at all.
for that.
Well, the title of it's there is animals, it's not dogs, it's animals.
Where's that?
It's there, it's the name of the thing is therapy animals,
Oh.
not therapy dogs.
I thought it
But
said
that's-
there.
Well,
It said
the-
therapy dog on
It
that
says
thing.
therapy dog on that,
I understand, right.
Yeah.
But the actual
that's why I keep
Policy.
saying
The actual
cats or anything could
policy
be.
says therapy animals.
But it has to be approved by the super, just because someone's qualified does not mean that Ellen's just gonna say yes, he's probably gonna consult and make sure we're okay with it, and then it's gonna be monitored, so again,
I'm-
yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
give you, I've been on the board since 2014. Around 2015, 2016, we had to do a board policy concerning insulin. And I cautioned the board against getting into the healthcare industry. 7 years later, 8 years later, we're making decisions for a $40,000 nurse to be sitting with a student every day, all day in the high school classroom to monitor something for her blood glucose level, which she's able to do on her own, because of a policy like that. What's gonna happen, and I know that Toby said this isn't what's gonna happen, is once that floodgate is open with this, now these are gonna get written into the IEPs, and you're gonna have dogs, cats, fish, birds, because it makes the student feel better. And that's what's gonna happen. And if you arbitrate it, the lawyer's gonna say they need it, and it's coming, and you're not gonna stop it. So this won't happen in 2 years, it's gonna happen in 7, the same as this, and that's a bad idea. If a student needs to have an animal in school, the student should not be in the school, they need help somewhere else.
My only debate would be, look at the agenda that we've already approved now, we've approved after-school meals, we've approved a psychology, psychiatry place, that has nothing to do with education, but those are all services related to students. So I'm just, listen, it's a good debate, I'm okay, but what I'm saying is, what's to say that they can't already get that approved if we've already brought pet therapy in here, we've had it, it's not something we haven't done.
Not officially, we haven't.
Right.
If you start making an official policy, that is the camel's nose under the tent, it's gonna happen.
My couple comments are that it still states that it can only have one handler, and that's a staff member. I'm not willing at this point in time to give up a staff member to handle this dog because I have dogs, I love dogs, they're great, but they demand your time. And they also, if not treated well, I would imagine that they could become aggressive with children no matter how well they're trained. So there's always that issue as well. And then another thing is the liability. And it did state, and I did ask Toby one of the meetings, yes, we would have to increase our liability to have the pets in the school. We do not have enough liability insurance for this. Then again, we have to accommodate any student who has an allergy, whatever, then you're going that route because mom says this child can't see the dog or that child. But you can have dogs in your home, as many dogs as you please, because that's your choice.
Kenny O'Bannon.
I would say two things. It is my understanding, and it would be my intention, that this does not allow every student to bring their own animal into the school. That would absolutely be unmanageable. This was intended to allow the school to have an official therapy animal, not everyone to have a service dog at their side. Second of all, this is simply to vote that we have a policy. This is not to vote to bring a dog in tomorrow. This is so that we have a policy on the books, should there become a time that we can agree that a dog is for us. That's all.
Okay.
I think that the policy doesn't limit who handles the dog, because whoever is the dog's handler, they would have to be with them all the time. And if it's our principal, she has enough on her plate. She has enough on her plate without handling a dog also. And then I fear that we have children who are allergic or who are afraid of them. So what do? Do you single that child out? Well, you've got to get out of the room, or we can't have the animal. That's not fair to that child, to have them singled out. And I think it's too free-ranging too, where the dog can be in the school, because it's not limited to a certain area. And I know that school districts that you have the information from, they have larger schools. They are larger schools, so they have more area.
Where was that from? Altoona.
Altoona.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big school,
they have
obviously.
bigger custodial staffs, they have more area to have the dog, and they can restrict them to certain areas. We can't. We're a small school district.
Just a couple things. One, the liability. I mean, I'm gonna assume it's an extremely small cost. We can look into the cost of that. Secondly, from a distraction from the principal, I mean, I don't expect the principal to be sitting in her office all day. At the same time, I'm assuming students come down there. The policy is very specific. The handler has to handle the dog. It has to be the person that trained with the dog. So, yes, she would be the one that's involved with the dog. Can I tell you what that's gonna look like day to day? I don't know. Unless we try it, I have no idea. That's a valid concern, that there could be distractions, but at the same time, I'm assuming that that's something we would monitor and report back, versus maybe not trying it. And from the Altoona School District, yeah, there's always a risk of allergies, but I guess there's a risk in the cafeteria of certain foods, or, you know, I'm not gonna say it's with zero risk. I never said that from the beginning. What I'm saying is, it's like one of the old adage, like, do you not do something because there's two people that may be affected when we have a district of 800 and some students. We know that we have a few extra overflow classrooms from the addition, from what I understand. So I'm just, you know, making the assumption there's some spaces that we would be able to, and it says in there, if there's any, the policy is very specific, there's a danger or any immediate thing, the dog or pet has to be immediately removed and put in a area that's specified. So that would all, again, those are logistics and mechanics that have to be worked out based on what the policy is. And, you know, I'm happy we're talking about it. If you don't agree, that I actually respect that. If we're gonna at least discuss it, and you give your concerns, and, you know, if the votes aren't there, I'm gonna dig into your concerns, and I'm gonna come back again probably eventually, so.
I just want to remind the board that the VOTEC does have a therapy dog, handlers with it at all times. So many of our students that go to Northern Cambria already interact with a therapy dog there. Many of our sending schools are also using their monies to acquire a therapy dog. And so it's becoming the norm. I'm not saying that we have to follow this path. However, it is something that many districts within our area are doing, and the students are responding in a positive way.
So with this therapy animal that you're talking about, you're gonna have to have another person hired to take care of that.
No, the principal's gonna do it, that's currently the principal.
I was the principal, and I wouldn't have had 10 minutes to do a dog.
Right, that's everything,
worked
and then
in
do you have a room for it, or do you have a
With her.
second room that
With her, in her.
also,
in
the
her-
individual would come from his classroom and go up to that,
Or she'd make, you know, again, to me, staff are, to be out in the exposed to the students, it should be somebody that's sitting in an office all day. Same as Ellen or anybody goes to sporting events, principal's gonna be out and about, I don't think they sit in their office all day, I'm not gonna say they have time to necessarily get out all day, and I can't sit here and, it would've been better if probably she was here to maybe speak about it a little bit, but I guess Lisa's gonna be out with the dog some, but at the same time, students would come on probably study hall if they want to sometimes, if they're like, I'm having a bad day,
is that how Altoona does it? They have their principal?
no, they have two, they have their,
No way.
their one teacher, I spoke directly to both of them for at least half an hour, the one teacher has the dog with him all day in his classroom. He said that dog is so well trained that when he starts teaching, the dog automatically lays down on his pillow. Occasionally he'll get up, walk around the classroom, but for the most part, that dog sits there
Yeah, I can
and
see
literally
that.
doesn't get up.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
can
they're
see
trained,
that.
they have to go through
Right. I
the
understand
training,
that.
you know, not getting
But you're
through.
using somebody on the school staff handling that dog is gonna be trained.
You are, but
Well,
they're not
if you-
getting paid extra for it, they're willing to do it. So if it starts to impact their duties, Ellen's their manager, so their boss, so if he comes out and says, you know what, I see this being an issue, we're not getting this done, that becomes a management issue that, in my opinion, that's where you say, you know what, we're falling behind these areas, so, you
But
know.
if they go with the policy, which you're saying is just a policy, nothing's going, is written in stone to do anything.
No.
When you decide to go with something, you have to go back to the board and say, we're going to.
No, we have a policy passed that's in place, so
Already?
Ellen can follow the policy at that point that says the dog has to be approved, I think it's by the supervisor, I can't remember the exact
Yeah,
language,
we're
but.
just voting to have a
No,
policy.
no, this isn't
No, I
just
know,
limited
that's
to
what I'm
one person, this is, you're talking about any therapy
It could be,
dog.
yes, but it has to be
So,
approved.
Like Lions Club does a lot with service dog, or therapy animals and others, but
Yeah,
that's.
but we've already had that service in here. So I think we have a policy that kind of pertains from what Laura said already along with pet therapy or something. I don't know the policy off the top of my head. This was
It's service animal.
service animal, thank you, yeah.
Bob, you have a comment?
Yeah, can we check into what the increase is gonna be in liability costs before we actually approve this? And one other question, you said we're not gonna have a horse.
Always might not allow.
Equine therapy is actually, it's very beneficial.
I have a friend who has a miniature horse, and she takes it into hospitals to visit cancer patients. What's gonna stop somebody from doing that?
Can I say something?
Alan,
Ellen has to approve
Alan's
it.
We're
got
putting
a,
it all on Ellen. Okay.
Can I just say something? I'm nobody on this board, but I met the other service dog. And I will tell you, I knew his name was Bentley, and the handler would come in with him, and I still didn't learn his name till 6 months later. He's Scott, but Bentley I knew the first day I met him. It made a big difference just him walking through here, and I know you all know that, and I get it. But is there any way you could just do it, but don't let her bring it every day? Like before PSSA tests, as a reward to the children.
absolutely.
If you bring it in that day and you have a wonderful response and you have parents writing to you say, we need this dog in here, if you have some facts that actually line up that this is a wonderful thing, then you can do it more often. But just do it occasionally
Yeah.
to see.
Definitely
That's a good
can't
point.
be every day. You
No.
were thinking every day, right?
But I think, and that's a hard pill to swallow, I get it.
Yeah.
But I just think that if you try it and these kids have a wonderful response to it, it's like bringing any other treat into the school. And it would be, of course, on Mr. Johnson's decision when it is.
Yeah, oh man,
What's
you're putting
your-
a lot on his
Every
shoulders.
time, every
I think
policy
he's
goes
up
through.
to it.
But I hear it all the time.
Yeah, thank you,
I
that's a
want
good
the
point.
superintendent's opinion. Because it's all gonna fall on you in the
Well,
end,
all right,
so,
so yes,
like, what jumps out
let
at
me,
you? Yes
let
or
me
no?
embarrass myself in front of everybody here right off the bat. I saw this on the last couple of agendas since I've come, and I know that we didn't really spend a lot of time in previous meetings, and it was just, we're gonna table and come back. So to be very honest, I did not sit down and study and educate myself. I thought they pass it, they won't pass it. Well, I'm confused, actually, so it's hard for me to render an opinion. If we're just talking about, in general, is it permissible to have a therapy animal come in? I mean, there's no therapy blackaders, there's no therapy, anything, anacondas or anything like that. Is it traditional? Then, I'm fine with that. I mean, I've seen that really do well for kids with emotional support needs. But it feels like we're talking about something else with regard to a particular person here, and that's where I'm getting confused. I would never want to see, I mean, I like the idea of service dogs or therapy dogs, but I don't want to see a policy written for one person. That's like an ad hominem thing. I think that's a bad practice. So I don't want to delay this yet again. But I would, if you really want my recommendation, I'd like to look at the policy, and you said there's another policy that I wasn't even aware of on this. What is the other policy?
It's not on this, it's on therapy dogs.
No, it's on,
So what's the
service.
what's the
Service
difference?
animals, I'm sorry, yes.
But that's what this is. That's
No,
what this-
No, this is a service animals because they need their emotional support like or possibly
Like
like a dog lead or something, so
Right.
versus,
Service
this
animals,
is
so
a therapy dog for emotional support.
service animals for an individual I'm sorry.
Blind person, something like that.
Yes.
That's a service.
Yeah, right.
This is not. This is
Okay.
a dog that walks around, makes you feel better.
So you're saying we already have the service policy animal, which
Right.
Yes.
kind of have to have that because
Yes.
we can't deny that this is an ADA issue. But I also heard we already have dogs that come in that kids get to pet if they're sad, right? That's already done?
It was brought in whenever we had a
But
little
it's
boy
not-
that died.
But it can be anybody that does it. Anybody who's certified to provide that kind of
So
service.
we
with
had a
that
health and
animal.
wellness fair, I believe, last fall, and they had different stations, and one of the stations was the therapy dog station, and students could go or not go, but they walked through the auditorium, and there was yoga, and there was healthy eating, and there was a therapy dog. There were several stations that the principals had reported to us. And to back up a little bit, I know you're new, but we've been talking about this since the fall. We had at least 2 presentations on this. So I know you're new to this, but we've been educated on it. But this is just another visit.
But what I can say, because I'm hearing, and honestly, I swear to God, I don't even know which principal you're talking about. And there's two, I could toss a coin and probably make a pretty good guess, but one thing I would not ever before is letting any duty other than building administration take precedence in a principal's job. Principal's job is primarily to administer their building. That has to be the number one function.
I agree.
Nothing can supersede that, nothing can come before that, so if there is a principal involved, then he or she would still have to be where they can do their primary job exclusive of that, so I don't know how that would work, but in general, the general idea of having a therapy dog in the school under certain circumstances, I don't have a problem with that. But it just doesn't feel like that's what we're talking about.
Well, Alan, just to add a little additional context, the whole reason that this came up was because Lisa offered to provide the service because she has a dog that's going through the training. If you think about it, if a student's having emotional support needs today or tomorrow, you're not getting somebody to come in that quick likely. It's something that needs to be scheduled out. So if we have somebody internally that can do it, same as Altoona School District has multiple staff that do it as an ancillary duty. Again, I'm not saying impact our regular duties. Karen, that's a great point. Maybe start with a day or 2 a week and just see how it leads in. But my point is, it's not that the policy is being written for Lisa, it's being written for Northern Cambria. Lisa just happens to be really the resource available right now that's offering it.
And it's not requiring her to do this or have this every
No,
single day.
not at all. No.
It can be as needed, really, right?
No, you manage it. If you're like, this isn't working, it's affecting your duties, you just say,
I mean, really, I work at Penn State currently, and I have worked at IUP in the past, and they have therapy dog Thursdays. And during finals week,
they have the dogs available at the library the whole time, and it's a come if you want, but it's never every day. I couldn't, and it would have to be a choice that the student and parent would make.
Are we identifying any specific kind of therapy dog protocol or therapy animal protocol, or using any standard that's applied to this? I'm not familiar if there is even such a thing, but is that?
You have to go through a poll thing, it's like, I forget the agency's called, the dog has to be certified, you know,
Right.
they don't come near you for food, you know, there's
So
things you have to pass, then they get a certificate.
Any putative therapy animal that does not have that, meet that standard is excluded from.
They have to provide that along with liability insurance, yeah, the policy specifies like, the dog has to.
I mean, they get a certificate, the dog
They
gets
go through a training,
certificate.
it's like 10 weeks or something, you know, and
And typically,
It's registered.
you just mentioned, don't they typically provide the insurance, don't they typically carry?
They have to have their own-
Their agency carries a general insurance certificate.
they do. She would get it through her dog, but that's not to say, you know, fully
Well,
transparent, that's not to say we couldn't be sued if
We're the
something
deep
happened to the
pockets,
student.
they'll always go after us.
Yes,
We've got
of
deep
course.
pockets.
Yeah, so.
Okay, we good?
Yep.
All right, let's do a roll call vote on that.
Okay. Mr. Bender,
I'm gonna say no on that one right now.
Mrs. Hoover,
Yes.
Dr. Krug,
No.
Mrs. Krug,
No.
Mrs. Lee,
No.
Mr. Rocco,
I hate this. My daughter has a therapy dog, certified therapy, so I'm gonna say yes. Cause she's not gonna be happy if I.
Mr. Basil,
We all knew
Yes,
too.
I wouldn't shoot it.
Mr. Westrick,
No.
Ms. Zinchock,
Yes.
three. Okay, well, it's 4-4. Oh, no, it isn't.
I say
It's
it's
5-4.
isn't it?
4 to 5.
4 to 5, sorry.
Yeah, or 4 to 5, rather, I'm sorry.
Okay, Appalachian Unit 8 ballot. The ballot for the election of the IU8 board members is attached for your review. The official ballot will be provided to you at the March 18, 2025 regular meeting.
Motion
That's this-
fails.
That's this one right here, guys. I think we turn it into you, don't we?
Yes, I got most of them.
We'll do
I
it at the
need
end,
Mr.
please.
Basil's.
That's mine.
Okay, we'll do it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, before you leave, please.
Okay.
Vote with your mind.
Superintendent contract, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the superintendent's contract for Mr. Alan Johnson from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028. We've all been provided that from Mr. McElwain on appendix number 5. I'll make the motion for that.
Second?
Mr. Tom Rocco seconds it. Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure I make the comments, Ellen, I just want you to be aware that the way I vote is not gonna be directly against you, I just wanna make sure I publicly say that, I think you're gonna do a great job, actually. I think all your interactions have been great, but I gotta stick behind what I felt the process was to fill this position, and, while I didn't think it was done fairly or the right way, I just want you to publicly know you have 100% of my support if you're in that role, so.
It's because I dropped the ball on the therapy dog, isn't it?
No, actually, I thought your comments were fair, actually, but no, I just wanna make sure I said that, cause,
I understand.
you know, there was,
No personal, I don't take anything personal.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Danielle.
I'm gonna echo the same statement. I have every confidence in your abilities, and I've enjoyed getting to know you a little better as the weeks have gone on, but I do not agree with the process, and that was not your fault in any way.
Anybody else? Okay, well, do you want a roll call, or do you want to, all in favor vote?
Roll call, please.
Roll call vote,
Mrs. Hoover,
No.
Dr. Krug,
yes.
Mrs. Krug,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Rocco,
Yes.
Mr. Basil,
no,
Ms. Westrick, or Mr. Westrick, I do that every time.
Yes.
Ms. Zinchock,
Yes.
Mr. Bender.
Well, I wasn't in that whole process, I'm not really sure how all this really.
Just abstain.
I'm gonna just abstain, is right, because I wasn't involved in any of this.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, be it resolved, the Board of Education offers the proposed retirement incentive as presented by Mr. Paranish for the 2024-25 school year. I believe it is, go ahead, I'm sorry, I'll make the motion for that. Mr. Bob Westrick, questions or comments, I'll make the comment. This is basically the same retirement incentive package we have proposed in the past. It's pretty much staying status quo with all that. Okay? Any other questions or comments on that?
I just know, I thought it was to go to all the staff, but it didn't. it went to the union rep, and then the union rep evidently sent out a thing saying, if you're interested, give me an email. I thought the whole staff was gonna get our offer. They did not.
Kevin, did we motion not to?
That's
the
not
motion.
typically
Wait,
the
motion.
process that it takes.
Someone
motion.
We,
Did I
we
motion? Maybe I missed
provide that to the
No, we didn't.
board.
I,
Oh,
we
we did?
motioned.
Okay,
No.
sorry.
I'm not saying.
I motioned, he seconded.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, I didn't
I'm
hear that,
not
sorry.
saying it was
But
done
I made a
wrong,
comment
I'm
since I
just
made a
saying, you know, obviously my wife's a teacher and she didn't know nothing about it.
Well-
So the union rep kinda controlled everything and how it went out, and I shouldn't have to call you if I'm interested, I should be able to read it.
Okay, well, here's the
Can
thing.
I?
Yeah, please, go ahead, Roland, cause you know more than me.
This was not passed, Mr. Rocco, it was discussed,
Then
and
why did she offer it to the people if it wasn't passed?
I didn't offer it to the people,
No, I'm
I
saying-
offered it to this,
It wasn't
Did you
passed
see the-
today.
You didn't see the email, did you?
No, I didn't.
Alright then, the
Well,
email
it-
that I wrote to the board member.
But it
or
wasn't passed
Can I
today.
speak? Can I speak? The email that I sent to the union rep, who is the one that would handle that before the board passed it, there was questions that came up from the teachers wanting to know whether there was gonna be an incentive. So, until the board passes an incentive, which has not happened as of right now, it will if the board so chooses, then it's an offer.
Then why-
I sent an email to the representative saying the board has offered to extend their letters till the end of the month, and they are contemplating a incentive. Simple. I didn't say, and in fact, in the thing said, there is no guarantee the board will pass it. They have agreed in essence to offering something, and that was it. So there really shouldn't have been anything gone out, at least by me or anyone on staff,
She sent it
to
out
anyone.
to them before today that
Pardon?
said it's still not passed. So,
Absolutely, it's not.
so the union rep sent to the teachers, if they made an offer, if you're interested in retiring and you wanna see the offer, please email me and I'll discuss it and I'll show it to you. So she offered it to
Okay, I
them.
cannot control what our union rep does after I send her an email.
Alright, well then, so you're, at this point, no one should know about this.
No, that's not the
Okay.
truth.
Well, wait a minute, it can't be both
No, I
ways.
think the right process, listen, I'm with you, but I think the process was right. I think if we had sent it without the board acting on it, then you're gonna have a real flood of people wanting to have, can I change this about it, can I change that about it? Can you make this exception, that exception? And then it kinda just makes it impossible for the board to act on it, cause you've got 30 different ways that people wanna have slightly modified for them. So I feel like we did the right thing. Board, this is the offer, this is what it is, now you can see it, if you want it, you want it, if you don't, you don't. But that's your only choice.
So
You see
the
what I'm
offer
saying?
really shouldn't have been out till tomorrow.
The problem was that their deadline for
Yeah,
applying a letter would have been passed. They needed
Yeah.
to, per the contract, say that they would possibly be interested in an offer. That's the reason why
I
it
see
went
your,
out.
I see your point, you could argue that we shouldn't have shared anything with the association until
Right.
we had agreed internally on what it was gonna be. But I think the effort was, on our behalf, was legitimate, was a good faith effort to try to find
Yeah,
out.
we did agree to
what could
it,
we do
we
that would
just
get
hadn't
more
voted on it.
Well, we also agreed to make sure we extended their letter of intent deadline.
Right,
Well, to the end, to what, March 31st, right?
which,
Okay.
have we done
So-
that by vote yet?
We're gonna do it, no, I think that didn't have to have a
No,
vote.
We
That
just
didn't need a
verbally
vote to do
stated
that.
it last meeting.
I
We
thought
just-
we verbally agreed on the contract.
No.
negotiation.
You can't
We
verbally
can't do
agree.
that.
Alright,
All we
well,
did
then
was-
why were we able to agree on the move of the date without a vote? Because that's
that's not-
contractual.
No,
No,
it
it's
isn't.
arbitrary.
We set that date, right?
No, there was really no, we could make it go to May 15th if we
But
wanted.
it's always been that date. You remember
No,
you asked me?
no, it hasn't
no,
always
it
been
had to
that.
be earlier.
It was
no.
even earlier.
Yeah, it's whenever we say it is.
Alright,
Okay.
so are we
But
voting on
but the
that?
package we offer has to be, that will be a contract, am I right? The package we offer, so that has to be voted on. The date's arbitrary.
Alright, so then it shouldn't have went out. So then she probably shouldn't have sent it out,
Well, that might have
made the
been,
offer until the vote was over. Somebody's wrong here, it's either us.
Yeah, you.
No,
All
no,
right,
I'm
let's
not.
go.
You sent it out
All right,
early.
listen, with
She
this,
sent it out
with-
before it was voted on.
with the yes vote on this,
I did not send it out.
No, I'm not
Hold on,
talking about
I'm
you.
pulling up my email right now.
You can
that
pull it
I
up all
submitted to
day
the-
if you
to
want.
just
the union.
before you do that, with the yes vote on this, basically, the letter of intent deadline is March 31st now,
Yeah.
which is, we chose that. And then the package we're sending is the same one we've always sent, and we're voting on that, and it goes out after this for sure.
So,
To everybody.
So was the email that went to the union rep, was that informing her of the extension of the deadline and that there could be an impending offer?
no.
I don't know that answer.
At least that's what Will was saying, if there's a requirement or something.
Okay.
I think what we were looking from the union for is to give us some kind of idea is under this general framework, would we be likely to get enough people to make this worth the board's while?
Gotcha.
And that's kind of tough to do,
Yeah.
because then as soon as you say anything to the membership was gonna say, yeah, okay, but that doesn't quite fit me, but if you can just do this, I'd be all for it. But you can't really do that as a rule,
So
because
that
then it
might
just
be why
becomes
she
two.
said, contact me.
Yes,
because
it
there
really
was-
was, yeah, very hard to do exactly the way it would have been ideal, so we just did the next best thing. I did talk to Ms. Mastrine about it directly, and that was what she told me, is, well, I don't know, because I'd have to, I'd have to see, and I don't know what members, some members might, but some of these members may not, I just don't know, so it was a lot of,
My question on that, it's really not her business as the union rep, this is an individual decision, isn't it?
Sure.
This is an
Yes, I
individual
can't argue
decision, it's
that,
really not
sure.
Melissa's decision.
Yeah.
She has nothing to do with this is what this district's offering each individual
That's
employee
correct.
who falls under those guidelines. She has
In the
nothing to do with
past,
that.
I have never dealt with anything contractual directly with the teachers. It's always been through the union rep.
Yeah, but it's not
I
her
can't
decision
send
for
out
them to
an
make.
First of all, I don't have the only link that I have to send out is an all-staff email. I will not
Also, I think we asked
have
her if we wanted to just.
send out an all-staff email for something to somebody that may not even be interested. There is probably, 80% of the teachers don't even qualify. So for me to send it out to anyone is not my place. I'm not gonna pick and choose who I send that email to, because I don't know who may even be interested. That's why I sent it to rep. And again, the email said the board has discussed and is willing to offer, which pretty much mirrors the last incentive. They have at this time extended the deadline for retirement letters to 3/31. Again, this is preliminary, with the board having, and in capital letters and underlined, not yet voted on this, but simply agreeing in principle that there will be an offer. That's all I sent, just so they were aware that is something happening. There were more than one teacher that approached me or emailed and wanted to know through the grapevine whether there was gonna be anything or not happening. And I said, that's up to the board, thus the reason for this email to the union rep. If the teachers did or didn't get it, that's not on me, that's on the union rep, or maybe she shouldn't have sent it to anybody. That's not my call.
That would be my guess. But if this gets approved though, I'd probably recommend, and you guys can back me or not, that it should go not through the union rep, it should go out to everybody as a whole. That way she can't pick and choose who to send it to, because that can't happen,
absolutely, 100%.
okay?
That was my
After
point.
this gets done, okay?
I'm not saying he did it on purpose, I'm
No,
saying.
I don't
that-
think,
No,
it was probably more of a
saying that I can't
fact-finding
control
thing than
what she
anything, I
did.
think that was just a little mix-up. But I think after this vote, if it goes yes, it needs to go out to everybody, not to the union rep.
Yep.
Is that?
Yeah,
okay.
no, I'm
Even
you're
the one
100%
that doesn't
right.
apply to you.
Even if it goes to the first year teacher, it needs to go
I
to them,
agree.
okay?
I really think you've done everything right.
Yeah.
You're kind of arguing for
I
what you've
just-
done, you followed the
yeah.
process the way it should have
Okay.
gone.
Yeah.
We're gonna, since that's a contract, we're gonna do a roll call on that, okay?
Dr. Krug,
Yes.
Mrs. Krug,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Rocco,
Yeah,
Mr. Basil,
Yes.
Mr. Westrick,
Yes,
Ms. Zenshaw,
Yes?
Mr. Bender,
yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes, and can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Tom, should Tom abstain because his wife is part of the group?
Yeah, you probably
Oh,
should, you probably should.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's okay, we'll take it,
No,
we'll
sorry.
make sure you abstain,
Yeah,
that was an
just put
accident.
me down as a big O.
Yeah, good catch. Dan.
Motion
Very
carries.
good catch. So 8-0-1, okay.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
have to
please,
look at
to the
financial
entire staff,
possibly.
okay. Thank
She
you.
won't give me any of that money.
Okay, the PMEA conference, resolve the Board of Education approves the attendance of Jenny Fox to the Pennsylvania Music Education Association Annual In-Service Conference on April 9th through the 12th, 2025, at no cost to the district. I'll make the motion for Jenny. So, Mr. Jen Zenshaw, anybody have any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, PA Federal Programs Annual Conference, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the attendance of Mrs. Carolyn Martin at the Title I Annual Conference on May 11th through the 13th, 2025, in Hershey, PA. The cost is $1,247.20, is paid from the Title I funds as per attachment 2. I'll make the motion on that.
Second.
From Mr. Tom Rocco. Any questions or comments on that? She's been doing this a long time, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, Mike has nothing. Transportation, Mr. Daniel Hoover. Be resolved, Board of Education approves the following substitute bus drivers for the school 24-25 school year. Is there anybody? I don't think we have anybody right now, do we?
No.
We mean applicants?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do?
My personal suggestion would be, because there were some questions, might wanna do that in exec and just come back out and do
Okay.
the vote after exec.
That's what we'll do, folks. We'll go into executive session, talk about the people on the list, because we do have to list them. And if we're gonna have anybody, and we'll come out, and we will have to vote on those names.
I have
Thank
no
you.
accused this year.
We'll table that until after executive session, so I'll motion to table. Second one, Mr., I think Mike beat you.
That's fine.
Mike Basil. There's no question or comments. All in favor for that?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good, thanks. Okay, athletics, girls golf team. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the creation of a girls golf team and the schedule for the 2025 fall season. And you can see the further resolve there, that, the extracurricular base salary of $2,400 for the head coach and assistant coach for $1,440 for both the girls and boys golf teams. I'll make the motion for that. So Mr. Tom, did you do that, Tom?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Tom Bender. Any questions or comments, guys? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm gonna vote no.
You're voting no, Carol? Okay, 8-1.
Motion carries.
Okay. Huddle contract, be resolved, the Board of Education approves entering a 3-year contract agreement with Huddle. This would include 2 new cameras for the football field and gymnasium. The 3-year contract will pay for the cameras over time as follows. Year 1, $10,000, year 2, $11,500, and year 3, $13,000 as per appendix number 6. I'll make, Mr. Tom Bender make the motion, and second Ms. Danielle Hoover. Questions or comments?
What is this,
It's a camera system.
okay,
And the Huddle is basically the name of the company.
and where are these cameras, just gonna go at the football field and in the
And in the gym.
gymnasium over here or whatever?
Yeah, right now we have contract with NFHS, okay? And as Mr. Pajak had said, our cameras are old, but to renew their contracts, it's 0, because we already bought the equipment.
Okay,
This is replacing that equipment, it's an upgrade,
and it's more for security?
no, it's to televise the games.
Okay, okay, that's
Online,
okay.
okay?
But it can do security, I mean, it also is that too.
Yeah, but I don't think they're running while the game is on in play though, okay?
Oh, but they were, I'm sorry.
No, what they do though with Huddle is they actually do stats for you too, if you pay the extra fees for that, okay? I know when we were in volleyball, we did Huddle on our own, and we did stats with that. Good,
I'm sorry, but the numbers he's giving you include all of that now, so
Right.
that's so all the stuff our coaches are using is in that number.
okay,
It's not just the cameras, that's the whole enchilada.
it's the whole schmeal,
It's the whole thing.
okay? Good.
Okay, so we have cameras
We have NFHS cameras.
down the
They're-
field, up here?
Yes. I know we have them in the old gym, I don't think we have them in the new gym yet. They're in the old gym.
Not yet.
But they could be moved to the new gym?
No, we
Okay.
own them.
Okay.
The cameras at the high school football field very frequently crap out.
Even in the gym, they do.
And
And-
people get upset because they pay a subscription fee to watch that and they're sitting there at their home and the camera you know, malfunctions and Mr. Pajak has to take the angry texts and you can't get the cameras back up and running, I would just say that, you know, we've had them since before COVID, so it could be a good time to, and if he's suggesting that we do this, I would just take his word for it.
Well, the other thing is, if you wait till after next year, it's 13,000 each year. So we are getting a little bit of a break in the year 1 and 2. Also, I guess the support comes with it. You know what I mean?
That's great.
If something goes down, support comes with it.
Oh, he did say that.
Yeah, because it's getting better. It's like
Yeah.
COVID was the beginning of all of this televised stuff, and now we're getting to where we have a
Yeah.
support.
He said eventually too, I think you could do, which we're not gonna do right now if we approve this, but, was there something where you could pay for it and then everyone could get into if you wanted to pay the subscription or something? I thought he made a comment
No.
about.
No,
there
I
would
don't
be a
think that's
subscription
what
fee
yet.
if-
I don't think
We-
so, we
I
own it.
think, see, right
No,
now,
once we, is it
We
once
own it, I think once we own it, then
once
we
we
can
own it,
charge.
right now, coaches have access, cause they have a password you can put in, and the players can put their stuff in, you get at least that's what it was when I was there.
Yeah.
It's probably still that way. And then after we own it, then you can offer it to the general public, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
You'll be able to do it now.
Oh, now?
I'm sorry, I'm not the AD.
No,
that's
no, please.
But so, when I entered into the NFHS contract back then, that was the best thing going. Huddle now, so folks, what you may not understand, especially the new board members, all of our coaches already buy into the Huddle program. What I was trying to explain earlier was he's talking about the cameras, but you're getting the whole package.
Right.
So if you stick with the old cameras, you're still probably paying $8,000 or $9,000 for the Huddle package for all of our coaches anyway. So it's a little more, but we're gonna get a huge upgrade in cameras that I believe we'll be able to push out using our own like YouTube channel or thing. It's a little different than an NFHS.
The other issue was that, at least Dan, I'm not sure, Dan mentioned that the coaches with the existing system have to do some additional messing around.
They do.
Right.
Every week to upload stuff, they
Correct.
wouldn't have
It's
to.
a giant.
It was more my experience, the Huddle cameras were more panoramic too. In the NFHS, depending where you were, they would go. And you try to watch a volleyball game like that, you're missing half the game.
Yeah, it's
so
slower
frustrating.
than the serve,
It was
yeah,
tough,
it's bad.
okay?
It's a huge upgrade.
I'm sure Chris has, I mean, you probably have a preference. Alright.
So what I'm reading here is that we could live stream it and we could either charge a fee or it could be no fee, according to just the attachments.
Okay, I thought Dan said something about
Yeah,
it.
it's-
I think
up to
Dan
us.
said that the school
We can
could
save
cover the
people
cost.
crossing and it just.
Yeah.
There's,
So.
How many cameras is there?
there's nothing in this agreement, it doesn't give you how many cameras. So you're assuming we're getting a camera for the gym and the football field, but there's nothing,
Well, it says the football
Concrete.
field and the gymnasium and the motion, so
but it doesn't say that on the paperwork in our agenda items.
if we approve it for this and it's not in there, can we make sure
Well,
that,
you'd have
till
to
we
ask
review the
Dan, Dan's the
contract?
one doing
We're
this.
still not signing the contract even though we approved the motion though, right?
No,
I mean,
we are.
technically, we always say Toby
No,
will
there
review
is
the
no
contract.
signature on that, that's just an agreement
Yeah.
paperwork. There's nothing in your folder to sign tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure this is pending on Toby's approval if it's a contract.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what
You just put
We could
subject to review by the solicitor.
That's what I'll
the
do.
motion.
Yeah, put that
That's
in.
what I'll do. We'll do the 3-year contract, we'll pay for the cameras over time
Yeah, it's
installed,
enormous point.
and this
It's-
contract is subject to review by the solicitor.
Because our motion says 2 new cameras, so if it's not for 2 new cameras, then, because of.
Well, if we look at Huddle Focus cameras on one of our attachment pages, it says these it states in there gym, or stadium, so that, like,
Or and?
it was speaking about something else, so
Oh.
it mentions both locations, so I would
Yeah.
assume then we're getting cameras for both locations.
They're stationary, so,
Most likely.
I don't know how you're gonna do it without them. You know?
Let's just vote.
Tom, if I did that, I'd do that. You know that. Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
There you go, print that in the paper. Okay, I'll be looking
Motion
forward to
carries.
these. All right, assistant volunteer coaches, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the following assistant volunteer coaches. You can read them, Madison Hassan's gonna go from a volunteer to an assistant coach at the request of Mr. Rocco, I believe, okay? And then Mark McCombie for volunteer for baseball. I'll make the motion. So Mr. Daniel Hoover, questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, be it resolved, the payment of the bills for the month of March 2025 be approved as presented or amended, received and filed. I'll make a motion for that. Second, Mr. Bob Westrick. Any questions or comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, now folks, we are gonna go into executive session. Remember, when we come back out, we will be voting on bus driver if we have candidates, and we'll just probably let it drop if we don't, okay? So, be it resolved, Board of Education will enter an executive session at 8:44. 7:44 PM to discuss litigation, contract, students, and personnel. I'll make a motion for that. Second one, Mrs. Janet Hoover. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
So we're gonna do that here.